Hard about what you want to be. Step 4. Everybody just do your thing.
Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. 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 Set your affirmations, aspirations. I got shit to do, the aftermath of preparation.
Brad.
You're on mute.
Welcome to the new year, Brad.
There we go. Welcome to the new year, everybody. welcome to Tales from the Field. Wow. Already $1 goes into the mute jar. There we go. My name is Bradley Ball, and it is so good to have you with us. We are back and better than ever. Here we are in the new year, and what a year we had last year. Last year, we had Buck Woody, Jess Schultz, Pamela Howe, Lonnie Bauer, Tom LaRock, Rhea Irish, Holt Foley, Bob Ward, Nico Nurembauer, Andrew Nathan, Chris Ayers, Anna Hoffman, Matt Gordon, Karen Lopez, Bradley Shatt, Louis Camino, Amy Harold, and Adam Saxton, one half of Guy in a Cube himself. We are just getting started. You don't want to miss a minute of those shows, so make sure and head over to our YouTube page and check out all of those episodes. If this is your first time finding us, please go over and subscribe to our channel, give it a like. Want to interact with the show? It is easy. Right now, we are streaming on Twitter on the accounts of Tales from the Field, Josh Ludeman, Neeraj Jafari, Sequel Balls. That's me. Also on my LinkedIn account over at Sequel Balls, and also on our YouTube channel at Tales from the Field. If you go and comment on any of those streams, one of my wonderful co-hosts will see that comment, and they will add it to the show so you can be a part of it. And of course, before we go any further, let me introduce these wonderful co-hosts of mine. I am joined by Andreas Padilla, Josh Ludeman, and the sight of him on the screen fills me with happiness, like I am witnessing a Christmas miracle. The one, the only Neeraj Jafari. Neeraj won hosting duties in our last show of 2022. Neeraj, what is the topic today?
Topic for today is New Year resolutions. And Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, man.
Happy New Year.
Absolutely. And as if it couldn't get better than that, we are joined by Erin Stellato. Erin is a senior program manager on the Azure SQL Tools and Experience product group. Prior to joining Microsoft, I knew Erin as Azure, it was a Microsoft Data Platform MVP. She is an international presenter at conferences. She was a consultant at the world-renowned SQL Skills Consulting Organization. She's a blogger. She's a writer. She's an all-around amazing human being. She's in the Twitter workout group that we've all kind of organically started together as part of the community. Welcome, Erin.
Thank you. If it weren't for that group, sometimes I think I wouldn't have any notifications when I check Twitter, I have to tell you.
I completely understand that. I was going to say those notifications typically make me go, okay, I really do need to go work out this morning.
Yeah.
I am thankful for our friends that are in the European time zone, because when they're working out, I wake up and I look at that and I'm like, oh, they've already done so much.
I know.
Yeah, okay, I got to go.
Yep. I agree. Thanks for having me.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you here. Andreas, we had a great vacation, a great break. What'd you do on vacation?
Oh, man, I rested. I went ice skating. I went to the beach. I had a eggnog galore, you name it. And we partied a lot. But it's nice to be back getting into the mix.
I love that you mentioned that. I love eggnog. How about everybody else?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. No, Erin is a no. So,
No.
Okay. What about eggnog do you not enjoy? I'm fascinated.
I just don't like it. It's just the flavor. Like I'll take the champagne. You can have the eggnog.
Okay. I do make good. Fair. I do make good mimosas. My mimosas have a little bit of Blanco tequila. And then I put in a little bit of passion fruit liquor as well. Then we do the champagne, then we do the orange juice, then we do a little Grand Marnier as a topper.
I would like that recipe. I can't remember all of those things. So
I will send it to you.
Mine is just like a little bit of orange juice and then champagne. So
yeah, our buddy Dan Tiller. Oh yeah.
Hi, Dan.
Dan said Erin is a huge inspiration. She absolutely is. Thanks for joining us, Stan. So I'll send you the recipe, but I made that slowly over time for Mother's Day specifically, because what I would do is I would come up with a menu. I would banish all the moms to the living room and make the kids and the other dads be my like prep chefs.
Mhm.
And we would cook the meal, and then I would get to be the bartender, and I would make the mimosas. That way I also got to drink the mimosas, but I would take them into the ladies and do the refills. So
Well, you got to taste test them. You can't just send them out there without any kind of quality control.
like,
I mean, come
like,
on.
exactly. A good chef and a happy bartender test what they make.
Absolutely.
True.
So, Erin, fresh new year.
Yes.
You've been a DBA consultant. You're now a PM at Microsoft on the SQL Server Product Group. What does the new year have in store for you?
The new year, in terms of work things, has some releases coming up. So I am PM for both Management Studio and for Azure Data Studio. So we have those coming up. And then there's Bits coming up in March.
Yeah.
Which will be great. I'm going to go in person. Knock on wood.
Me too. Let me find some. I don't think that's wood. I'll have to find wood later.
Yeah, you'll have to find. I hope you find donuts again, like you did last year. Although we'll be in a different spot, but I'm sure they'll have donuts, right?
They've got to. I've got to imagine there's going to be. I'm excited to go to Wales. I've never been to Wales before.
Me either. Yeah, me either. I don't even know how we get there. I mean, we take a train, I think, right? But beyond that, I have no idea.
It's funny. Buck asked about that on Twitter, and
Yep.
some of the great folks over in Europe, in England and Wales, had already responded to him. I literally bookmarked that tweet. I think it's the first tweet I ever bookmarked, because there was all these instructions associated with it. And of course, there was some picking back and forth of no, don't do that, don't do this. But there's apparently a national rail service, and there's a direct train that goes to Newport. And so that's my plan. I'm flying into London Heathrow. I'm taking the train, and I'm heading over there.
Yep.
Now I'm flying Monday to Monday. And the funny thing is the hotel only stops on Saturday. So I'm going to go into London and be a tourist for a couple days before I fly back out.
Have you done that before? Have you gone around London?
I have. I love London. It's one of my favorite cities on earth.
Awesome.
Yeah. But those donuts from last year, I need to figure out a way to be able to have photos that we can just add to the broadcast, because those photos from the donuts from the Borough Market were just epic. Oh, Dan's got Azure Data Studio has made great strides when it comes to evaluating and migrating to Azure. Thank you to the Azure Data Studio team. Thank you, Dan. Absolutely. Our thanks to them. I find myself, I love Azure Data Studio. There's some things that I found I can only do in SSMS. And I love how some of that behavior more and more is getting ported over. Just the flexibility of Azure Data Studio to be able to use that as your code tool for your commits, your check-ins, for DevOps, for PowerShell, to be able to manage your environment as well. And then when you're doing stuff with Arc, to be able to connect to Arc via the controller manager to connect to Kubernetes instances and detect all your Arc SQL instances. It's just a amazing product.
Well,
Yeah. Go ahead, Josh.
No, I was going to say, I was going to pour more kudos your way, Erin, as far as the product goes, because for me, and Brad can attest to this, it's probably one of my more annoying personality traits is I like different operating systems. You know, sometimes I'll want to run Linux, other days I want to run a Mac, or I'll run Windows, and Azure Data Studio is always there for one, but also for two, SSMS is so heavy. Azure Data Studio is nice that I can spin it up with about the same amount of resources I need for Notepad, and it can just do the work. So yeah, kudos.
Yeah, you hit upon like the tenets. Hang on, you hit upon the tenets of Azure Data Studio, which is it's lightweight, it's cross-platform, it's extensible, right? It's modern, and has dark mode, which a lot of folks love. And SSMS is the like end all be all in terms of like all of the stuff that you need, but a lot of times you don't need all of the stuff. So Azure Data Studio is definitely there to fill that gap, and its extensibility is also what keeps it pretty lightweight. But my question for you all, and for anybody who's watching, is what do you think is the biggest thing that we need in Azure Data Studio? Like, what are we really missing there?
That one I'm going to let the others take, because for me, I look at it and I go, I don't go back to SSMS anymore, but I know other folks like Brad, stuff you do, and from time to time you go back to SSMS instead of Data Studio. I think the availability group stuff I think is being handled somewhat through extension, but I think there's still some gaps in there, I believe. But again, I'm
There
not as
are.
much.
There
I was
are.
going to
There-
say
we
I'm
have
not as much
nothing
of
for
availability.
AG. So that's a good thing to know. Okay.
AG, yeah, AG is. I mean, most of the customers that I have worked with, the AG was one of the big things that they have to go to the SSMS instead of Data Studio. I mean, that's what they.
Andreas, I think I cut you off earlier. What were you going to say?
First of all, thanks for you guys posted something on December 15th for on Data Exposed for how to use Azure Data Studio for SQL migrations. Great video. AK.ms Data Exposed for all of you out there. Great post. You should see it all there on the audience. And in terms of your question, I would love to see a little bit easier going when it comes to troubleshooting connections. I'm dealing with Xavier devices and Raspberry Pis and all that, and loading Azure SQL Edge on there. I'm always getting some, connection errors, and I'm like, what's going on? Could it be the port? Could it be the connection string? Could it be, just that? I think we could clean that up a little bit. That's the only thing, but everything else is gold.
So we have had some serious issues with connectivity and that connection dialogue and all of that. So that these past few months and continuing into this year is something that we have a small group of engineers that are absolutely focused on. I think that they're making really good strides, and part of that down the road also includes some improved troubleshooting capabilities. So I can't share too much about that yet, but we recognize that connections have not been as strong as we would like them to be. So we're improving that. And then also additional troubleshooting in there. And on that connection comment, there's a change in 2022 to support TDS 8, which means changes to encryption. And so those have also made their way into Azure Data Studio. So for those of you who are familiar with it, you may notice that we have a couple new options on that connect screen. SSMS isn't there yet. We have to make changes to some underlying drivers. It's not as simple as folks might think it is, but Azure Data Studio definitely has what you need for that TDS 8 and those encrypted connections.
Love it. Oh, yeah. Can't wait for the fast forward 6 months or a year.
Yeah. Come back and let's chat again in 6 to 12 months for sure.
Awesome, Erin.
Deal.
No, I love it. Honestly, Andreas, you're going to have the best one out of the group on that one. I really like the connection one. For me, I think sometimes it's just about looking at database properties very quickly. Being able to especially look at some of the database configuration options. Right now, I could get them via scripts, but being able to get them via pop-up and or grab a screenshot. So that way, if I'm working with a customer, I can call back and look at this and go, okay, let's edit this, let's change this. Just being able to do that via a GUI instead of a T-SQL interface. I think that's probably the one that keeps me over there right now.
That's good. That's good to know. Keep going. Sorry.
Well, no, and I was going to say, I think this is a great opportunity for us as a show to help out Erin where we can here and reach out to the audience. Put comments on the show, this episode, hit us on Twitter, anything like that. We'll forward on any of your comments and questions and concerns about this question that Erin posed back to the product group so that we can help them gather that valuable customer input.
Yeah, and that's what I love. Here's one of the things that really I hope people understand. What an exceptional gift that we have that, first off, Erin is brilliant and wonderful, and I'm so happy she's here. But at the same time, she is one of the people influencing the direction of the product. And so whenever you think about would I talk to change this, or, here's something I'd love to see. Oh, and here we go for Andrew. Persistent query history is my big need. If I could use it to retrieve query for months back, it'd be a big help.
So I can't do months back, but we do have an extension that's query history, so that as you're making changes to queries, like when you're tuning or troubleshooting, that is persistent. Now months back, I can't do that, but we do have an extension for that.
No, very nice. So for the months back, would that be a setting that the end user would have to set on the query data store? Does the connector use the data from the query data store?
So the extension does not. That's a great point, Brad.
Okay.
So Andrew, so what Brad's talking about, if you're not familiar with Query Store, please let me take some time and tell you about it. Not today because we'll run over, but anything that you're executing against your database, assuming that you have Query Store enabled, would be captured there. So assuming that you're retaining that history in Query Store long enough, right? You're asking for months. I don't know if that's 2 months or 10. It could potentially be in Query Store.
Oh, very nice. So the query extension,
Yeah.
that's a completely different.
Yeah.
Now, where does it retrieve that data from? Is that from?
It's a local cache that it's holding that information locally. So you can set how many, I think, queries you're retaining, or maybe what the size of that file is, because there's also, think about this also, Andrew, from a development perspective, right? If you're writing these giant queries, these stored procedures, and then you're executing them, and then you're changing a little bit and you're executing, like that's a lot of text that has to be stored somewhere. And so for a variety of reasons, like that just isn't really feasible for us to manage in an extension. But again, you'd have Query Store, assuming you were keeping that long enough. But Brad, it's cached, it's local. So I believe that once you would close Azure Data Studio, that query history would be lost. But while as long as you have it open, which I know some people leave things open for days and days, it would be there.
Oh, that's really cool. No, that's fascinating. Absolutely.
Yep.
Stan, I know it was not a love part of SSMS, but the database diagrams come in handy when you don't have tools like Irwin.
That's feedback I've heard a lot. So I asked for this feedback because that's really been kind of a core charter for me since starting at Microsoft, is that I need to understand what users are asking for. And Azure Data Studio has NPS score, and it allows you to, like, would you recommend this to a friend? Which I think is an interesting question. But what's more interesting to me is that folks can enter comments, and I read every single one of those comments. Since we started collecting NPS, I have read every one. I've read some of them multiple times. I categorize them. Believe it or not, database diagrams comes up far more often than I would have ever expected. That and Query Designer. Have any of you ever used Query Designer in SSMS?
Yes, but only to realize it was there, not so much to, no, that's interesting.
I know, right? But those two, actually, I've seen those multiple times in the feedback. Like sometimes I just get not as good as SSMS or missing things from SSMS, which is fine. But when folks provide the specific things, which is why I asked today, right? What are you really missing? Those show up.
You know, that's fascinating to me. When I've worked with some different customers, there are some different tools around SAP and other things that I've noticed that are very WYSIWYG friendly, that make me go, I can see where, you know, for those of us that live in SQL every single day, you get so used to just typing out SQL and not using any type of graphical interface to be able to create your T-SQL. You forget, hey, there's a whole segment of folks where they do this part-time, or this is a little bit of what they do. This is not their full-time gig, or, you know, perhaps this was the way that they learned to be able to query the database, was to be able to go into the Query Designer and go, oh, give me these different objects from this, and that produces that select statement. So, you know, anything that makes that people's lives easier, that's interesting.
The entry, it's the entry, right? Because SSMS, somebody who's new to Azure or new to SQL opens up SSMS, it's like, this is way too much. Like, this is a lot. Whereas Azure Data Studio, much simpler. Right. And so it really benefits those new folks. And then the folks that have worked with it for a long time, obviously they can use Azure Data Studio as well. But for those newer folks, as you've said, helping them write that query is kind of important.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that is some great stuff. I love it.
Yeah.
So Neeraj, oh, sorry. I was unmuting you and you unmuted. All right, so I guess we should talk about our New Year's resolutions. Now, since you're the host, do you have one?
Yes, I do have one, but I just wanted to hear first from you guys. The one that I had it was like taking care of the family this year. I mean, just not ignoring them, making sure. I mean, I know people do weight loss and this, and I mean, all that sorts of things. Now, more is more health, and taking care of the family is what I was looking forward this year. But maybe let's start with Josh. Josh, let's see what you have for you.
Absolutely. First of all, Neeraj, great one to bring to the table. Family, I think it's easy, especially when we get caught up in the the traffic of of professional and personal and all that stuff, that sometimes that can easily fall to the side. So I really applaud you about that one. Love it. For me, my goal is to be more deliberate this year, right? And I think y'all have known me long enough that I kind of run into a room and I'm like, all right, everything's on fire. I'm going to put out everything at once, and that's kind of how, I've tackled, and I've been able to do it pretty well over the years. But it wears and tears at you and your soul after a while. Where for me now, it's still running in, but assessing faster and targeting, being more deliberate in that sense, not just in work, personally as well as professionally, but just being more deliberate in what I do, and how I use my time.
So
That one's for
Josh,
me.
yeah, nice resolution. One question I had: would you also figure out what managers do in 2023? I mean,
I'm going to try and figure out what we do in 2023. No guarantees I'm going to find out, but that is on the to-do list as well, is to figure that out. But
wow, that's
no
a deep callback, Neeraj. I appreciate
Yeah.
that. So Erin,
it's like what, episode 1, 2, something like that?
It was
Episode 2.
Earlier. Josh
Two.
said something about how he was trying to. I think we were doing a roundtable and we were talking about DevOps, and Josh is like, yeah, this is the blog I use to be able to do DevOps, because me, I'm a manager, and y'all know managers don't know what you're doing. And that's what our takeaway was. Managers, they don't know what they're doing. And you. So
it's
maybe
tricky. It's tricky when you get into a leadership position and you start to step away a little bit from the tech. Like I was a team leader once a long, long time ago, and I did not like that. I missed that.
Well, and it's funny because what gets you the job as a manager is not the skill set you need to be a manager.
Right. Right.
Yeah, as my wife likes to say, you SQL, and then all of a sudden you people, and it's like, oh, wait a second, this is not the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
All of you sort order by this. Why aren't you doing what I want? Just doesn't work out that way.
I asked for certain behavior pattern to change. Why didn't this update statement come in?
You didn't have a where clause.
No, did I roll back? Did I not commit? What's going on?
So yeah, Brad, what do you got? I'll pass it over to you. You're next.
So, and you got to stick with me on this, but my goal is to listen to every single episode of the Armchair Expert this year. They have several podcasts in their umbrella. They've got like 4 or 5 episodes that they drop. Well, actually, probably about 3 per week right now, but some of them are 2 hours long. And what I've noticed is I'm always active when I listen to this podcast. I'm never sitting still. I've got this really nice dad chair. It is my comfortable place. And I have gotten into the habit of, I'll sit in that dad chair. I will stream things I don't even care about. It's just literally, I have something on in front of me as I'm sitting in the dad chair. So yeah, Brad shutting up 1,000 points.
If I could give 1,000, I'd give 1,000 to that too. I feel like that's a good charity to donate to.
But I notice whenever I'm listening to the Armchair Expert podcast, I'm out and I'm working out, I'm running, I'm biking, I may be cooking, I'm doing something around the house. And so my thought process is, if I'm listening to the show, I'm going to be more active. And so that's retroactively kind of my goal, is to have a more active year. And I know I'll do that if I'm listening to the Armchair Expert podcast.
Beautiful.
And this YouTube is brought to. No, I'm just kidding.
So Brad's next birthday gift is a package of alcohol swabs to clean off his AirPods, because those things are going to get a workout.
That's probably not a bad idea. Hold on, let me head over to Amazon right now.
That's what I'm here for. Good ideas. That's it.
Thank you.
Social commentary. That's it.
There we go. Getting that manager stuff down. All right, Andreas, I think we're over to you.
My
buddy.
turn. I'm ready to go. I'm going to top you guys. I'm going to try to top you guys because you, man, health, armchair, and then Josh finding out what managers do. I mean, that's a good one.
That was the ancillary one. No. Being deliberate. There we go.
I think we all agree. Josh is learning what managers do this year. That's great.
Number one, health. We're not 23 anymore. The party all day and drink all night. And
Speak
eat whatever
for yourself.
Doesn't
Speak
work.
for yourself. I'm 23.
That's number one.
Ignore the gray and the beard.
And then second one, I do have this. It's the stress. The second one I have is saying no and being strategic about saying no, because I have all these. For those of you out there who are, our group, we have some strategic initiatives that I drive. Each one of us here in the audience has their strategic, baby. And then I tend to say yes to my clients because I love my clients. You got to say yes to your clients. You're customer, I'm customer heavy, and I'll do whatever it takes not to tell them no. I'll always, just go over and beyond it. But sometimes that eats away at you, and you only have 24 hours in a day. You can't say yes to everything. And I think, Erin, you said something great to me recently about the no's. What was that?
That saying no gives you space to unlock a yes for something else.
Oh, I love that. That's beautiful.
I have several good quotes around no. One of them is no is a complete sentence. The other one is from my friend Jess, which is, if it's not a hell yes, it's a no. And I say that enough that I was shopping with my daughter the other day and I was like, I don't know about this shirt. And she's like, is it a hell yes? And I was like, nope, it's not. I'm not buying it. And I put it back.
Nice.
So those are some good ones. And then this other phrase that I learned recently, and somebody used it and I was like, oh, that's really good, is when you have a hard time maybe saying no, or you feel like you have to explain it, all you can say is, that doesn't work for me.
Oh.
And that's it.
I love those. I'm going to tattoo
Right?
those. Yeah. Let's make a t-shirt.
There you go.
Rock. I think you just gave it away. Yeah.
Hey, my wife's got one of those Cricut machines. We can totally do that. Make shirts. Oh yeah.
There we go.
Yes, sir.
I like it.
Hey,
if it's not a hell yes, it's a no. I would wear that on a t-shirt.
Yeah. So Dan Taylor came in between the transition from Brad to Andres, and I feel like this comment needs to get airtime.
It is. I often refer to myself as the donkey from Shrek. The trick is not getting me talking; it's shutting me up.
So yeah, nice reference, Dan. Love it. Just wanted to give you a good call out there.
Way to go, DT.
And our good friend Lonnie Bauer, love that statement. I know we'll be using that in some conversations, but I love that as a metric. And Andreas, talk about, something that just stumbles into greatness. I mean, the concept of saying no, one of my favorite books, it has multiple chapters in there and how to say no without saying no, to give you a different vocabulary of being able to go, no, I'm so sorry, can't do that. Different ways to be able to back out of something, but also how to use it as a negotiation technique to be able to say yes to the thing you really want to say yes to and no to everything else. But yeah, great stuff.
It's hard, right? It's the hardest to say no, right? And yeah.
We're human beings. We want to please.
I know. I was going to say, I think by nature of being in an environment where we're obviously opening ourselves up to the world to be able to talk to folks and to be able to get comments, feedback, and then we go and we often present at different places. You can't help but want to be a people pleaser. I don't go into now. Granted, I have been in presentations where I managed to insult the audience within the first 2 or 3 minutes of them being there, just by attending my session. They didn't have the good sense to go see somebody else present, but that's fine. But other than that, I mean, we're people pleasers, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's why I really like Erin's phrase, that doesn't work for me, provides an opportunity for a conversation. Oh, Dan, I love that. Yeah, that's great stuff. All right, so Neeraj, what's our points tally?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I saw a whole bunch of numbers flying by.
Josh and Brad, you both have tied up at 2,500. Josh was above 500, but just because he just said 23 years, I just gave him 500 negative.
I was going to say we've
Downtown.
never had a tie before. Bring it, Littleman.
Yeah.
But Andreas must be just because you said the idea of saying no. I mean, that was a big huge topic when Adam was also on the show, right? Career discussions that we had. Just say no. So I definitely would put you as a winner.
Oh, I couldn't have done it without Aaron.
There we go.
So much,
Andreas is the
Aaron.
winner. Congratulations.
Aaron brought me over the line. Yeah.
Rigged. It's rigged.
Glad I could help.
It's all rigged.
We're in the first show of the new year, Josh. It's not rigged. Andreas had the best topic. We all talked about it for 4 or 5 minutes. Just because you still don't know what managers do, and you're going to find out in the new year, doesn't mean that you should complain about Andreas winning. He won it fair and square.
It's rigged.
But that's a good resolution, figuring out what managers do.
It's rigged.
So some quick reminders. We have our roundtable on Thursday. This is going to be featuring your content from the community. So please make sure and tune in. Send us your links. If you're doing something, we want to know about it. You can find yourself on the community roundup. Sequel bit. I want to be over there. Aaron. Over in Wales in the United Kingdom. Oh, what happened there to the music?
No, the music was drowning you out, so I just muted it real quick. Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Go
Okay.
ahead, keep going.
I was going to say that's all I had for the reminders. Anything else?
No. Please send in the links for Roundtable. That's my big thing. And if you want to hear me, stop hearing me complain about it. Start sending more links to Roundtable so we can have that content. We want to feature your content, your blogs, your videos. Send it in. Twitter, YouTube comments, any of that, please.
Yeah. So Dan is congratulating Andreas. Congrats on the win this week. Agreed. It's a great win. That's everything I can think of. Have a great week and see you all on Thursday. Take care, everybody. Thanks for tuning in.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Aaron.